Hello, my name's Eloise Lane, and this is a very late update video on my progress in my final major project. Since last recording, I have written up the entirety of my history part, my history research into 4 different sisters throughout time. It took me much longer than I anticipated, but it is quite a long bit of writing for me personally. I'm not much of a writer, so I'm quite pleased with the result of it, even though it took a bit longer than planned. I have also filmed a lot of test shoots for the sister interviews, the interviews I'm doing with my sisters. I did a lot of variations. Initially I did them as individuals, and I worked through some different sets that I could do. I set them up in the dining room in my house, of course, because that's sort of the only place I can shoot. I did initially without like a backdrop, just how my house is laid out. I knew that this wouldn't really look particularly good, but I just wanted to include it so you could see how much better it did look when I put up the sheet, which is the second option. I put like just a bed sheet over the door into the living room of my house. I also experimented with fairy lights, putting fairy lights behind the sheet and in front. I was aiming for sort of a soft focus for those lights, which actually I achieved, which is I'm quite pleased about, because I'm not particularly technical with the camera. I don't really know too well how to get those sort of looks that you can get, but I was quite pleased with this look, although I think it did look better with the fairy lights in front of the sheet, which I just held up, or me and my sister held it up just to see if it would be worth sticking it up. I also used just like a living room lamp we have, and I pointed that at the back of my sister's head, sort of as a bit of backlighting. It didn't do too much, but it did give it a nice colour, a little bit of a variation in the colour, because it's kind of quite a white frame, so I thought putting that in, because it's kind of an orange bulb, so that would look nice, and it looked actually really nice with like sort of her hair colour as well, so I was pleased with that. However, I think that my sisters would feel more comfortable interviewed as a group rather than as individuals. I think they'll be able to bounce off each other and feel less pressure as just individual interviewee. So first I put them all on a bench and me on a chair, and I kept the sheet and the fairy lights and the orange backlight. This looked nice, but I wanted to see if I could experiment with other sort of seating arrangements to see if they looked more comfortable, because I'm not sure if everybody felt particularly comfortable on the bench. So next I tried chairs. That I found that there was lots of gaps in the frame, like empty gaps when I used the chairs, because obviously the bottom and the tops, they couldn't all cover up, otherwise we'd be in a dead straight line, which wouldn't have looked right. So I moved everybody in, and so in actuality it looked quite funny, all the chairs being clumped together, but in the frame it looked a bit more full. I also changed the angle. I went for a higher angle to see if that would do anything. I didn't particularly like any of them. I think out of those, my favourite would have been the bench one, but still everybody looked quite uncomfortable. But since then I've spoken to my tutor, and she suggested something that I was kind of already sort of thinking about but wasn't sure how to do, which is to have everybody round a table. She suggested eating a meal, but I'm not sure if my sister would be comfortable eating on camera, so I think we'll have tea, like a cup of tea or any sort of hot drink together. I think they'll feel more comfortable because they'll maybe be a bit hidden under the table. They feel a bit more secure within the filming. So I've yet to test that. I plan on filming the actual interview on Saturday at the end of this week. So I'll test on Friday, and hopefully it will all go well. If not, I will resort to the bench option. Another thing that has come from talking to my tutor is the idea of setting up a bit of a story to the drinks, like setting up a bit of a preparation. So maybe the kettle and the pouring of the drinks. I was also thinking, like asking them, sort of just hearing the audio of, does anybody want a cup of tea or something, and then giving different answers maybe. So that kind of might be a little bit scripted, just for it to sound a bit is sort of better. And I plan on sort of planning a little bit of a mini script to that, and thinking about different, I think it's called B-roll, shots that I can get of the kettle and the cups, and maybe even like placing the cups in front of them, or getting two hands receiving and giving a cup of tea to each other. So I'll sort of think about that, I think, today, and then film that maybe also on Friday, once, because I have the camera equipment out anyway. I might give those a go. So along with the test shoots for the interviews with my sisters, I've test shot the interview with my mum and gran. Unfortunately, that has changed from a in-person interview to a video call interview, for obvious reasons. So I thought I'd test some screen recording options. I have a Mac, like a Mac laptop, a MacBook, which has a screen recording function in it, so I can record the screen. I also think I will use my phone. I've sort of been using my phone as a microphone, and I plan to use that in all the interviews to record the audio of the video interview and the audio of the in-person interview with my sisters, and probably the voiceover as well, because I don't really have a better option, and microphones in phones aren't too bad nowadays, so that'll be good. In terms of the result of the screen record test, I found that the like dimensions of the video were smaller than the dimensions of that in the camera, so I might have to, in post, like in editing, sort of adjust it. I might make it a bit smaller, maybe put a background or like a border. Maybe even I could put it like a laptop or like a computer to have it, but I don't know if that would look cheesy. That's literally just come to me just now, so I'll experiment more with that when it comes to the editing part. But I think it will be okay if it's smaller than the rest of the footage. I think that's everything up until Saturday that I have planned. Next week, I think, after I've watched through all of the raw footage of the interviews, I'll have a better scope of the direction of the video, so I'll be able to write out a bit of a script or even a bit of a storyboard, to kind of visualize the sort of the flow of the video. I was hoping maybe to put bits of the interview within each of the other segments, so I have like a history of science in the fictional story sisters part, an introduction and a conclusion. So I don't know if maybe what I talk about with my sisters or my mum and gran relate to anything in there. I might put that in there, or maybe as like a bumper at the end of each thing, so it feels less regimented. I'm not quite sure where to put the sort of introduction to the interview part with the whole kettle and making the tea sequence. If I am gonna be sort of slotting bits in, I might maybe do that right at the start, have a bit of interview, and then cut away to maybe the history part first, because obviously it's from a very long time ago, so maybe that would be best to have that bit at the start. I'm not really sure. I guess I'll see, and I think hopefully that will become clearer after I know what I talk about with my sisters and my mum and gran. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about this next part. I was kind of getting a bit stuck. I'm not really used to doing so much writing, and I'm not great at research. So, but I thought it was really necessary for me to go a bit deeper maybe than I normally would, because it's my final project, and also because it's kind of a fact or an information based like product. So I think it's important for me to know sort of what I'm talking about before I make it or write anything. So yeah, but I'm really excited about the next stuff, and I'm really excited to get editing, because that's really what I love the most. There's a lot of stuff that needs to come before the editing, so it's kind of best till last, which is good. Yeah, anyway, I think that's everything. Thanks for watching. I hope it wasn't too long, and I will see you next week. Bye.